Speaking of colorful people, Governor John Hickenlooper became the second high-ranking Colorado Democrat to voice doubt over Hillary Clinton's success in the 2016 election. Joining former Governor Richard Lamm, Hickenlooper said that while she is still the most qualified, the email scandal may prove too big to overcome. Eric, it's not that both Richard Lamm and Governor Hickenlooper are suddenly against Hillary Clinton. They're just voicing doubts. Are there enough people like this in other states voicing doubts that she really is at risk, or is she such a front runner in the Democratic nomination race that it's hers to lose?
Yes and yes. She's still a prohibitive front runner, and there are increasing doubts being, if they're not being voiced as audibly as Hickenlooper and Lamm voiced theirs, they're being voiced in a whole lot of private conversations, and it would not take very much to tip those private conversations into public conversations. There is somewhere between, there's not yet full-blown panic on the Democratic side, but the problem with the Clintons is you're always dealing with what's in front of you, the scandal du jour, but you also never know what's around the corner and what's still to come. In this case, the Department of Justice really holds the cards. I'm of the mind that one reason Joe Biden is looking at this, whatever stage he is in his decision-making process, is if anyone's going to have access to information out of the Department of Justice, it's going to be the Obama White House. And he might know information that the rest of us are not privy to in terms of where the Justice Department is. Last comment on this is vis-a-vis John Hickenlooper, all the speculation was that he's mounting a very aggressive candidacy for vice president. And I'm not sure the way you become Hillary Clinton's vice president is through exactly comments such as this.
I would definitely agree there. I read that comment. It's like, well, he doesn't want to be vice president anymore. So that's at least a good, at least news there. Ben, you've run a lot of campaigns, while they be on the local side. This is national side. What do you feel if you're in the Hillary camp and you see this from pretty high-ranking, respected Democrats in Colorado? These two probably are up there when it comes to respect among all kind of Coloradans, not just Democrats.
Well, I think that they should be nervous, and that, any campaign that announces a plan to be more spontaneous, I think is projecting clearly that they're not totally sure how to conduct themselves. And I think in this case with Hillary, you have a lot of the sort of older traditional Democratic power structure wringing their hands a little bit and expressing concern. I think when you look at some of the younger demographic, they're not really on the Hillary bandwagon as much. You certainly have folks in the millennial group that want to see a female president, and that's a huge priority for some. But my view, and I may be a little bit out of touch just because of age, and the national politic is so hard to digest. But I think that Hillary is going to continue to have these problems because the brand, the Clinton brand, has so much baggage attached to it. As Eric said, there's what's happening now, there's what might come around the corner, and we all know that there's a huge history, and God knows what might come out of that history. So, at least from my perspective, and I think the perspective of a lot of my peers, we'd like to see new blood. And I think that's part of why there was obviously so much enthusiasm for Obama. I think it's why you see so much enthusiasm for Bernie Sanders amongst younger generation. And we'll see what comes. I do think that Biden is looking at it closely. I suspect he does know more than the average person. And I think if he did get in, that he could capture some of what Hillary has and pull in some of the Bernie people. So I think it's bad for the Clinton campaign.
Patty, just one more hurdle for the Clinton campaign to overcome, which is also part of their brand?
Well, their brand has never been forthrightness, so it's not a huge surprise that they would have, clear honesty, not the issue. Hillary, as we know, has always been defensive from her early baking cookies comments. But every time she tries to account for this, the server, I don't know how to wipe a server or whatever she said, she just, that self-effacing doesn't become her either. I think we can say safely that the land of God's guns and ganja, they might have wiped off at this point, if they know how to wipe. The interesting thing about Hillary right now is partly because Carly Fiorina is doing so well, people are feeling a little more free to say, I don't have to like Hillary. The great thing about equality is you are free to both like a woman candidate for president and to say, I don't like this candidate, not because she's a woman, but just because there are a lot of flaws in that makeup and her story is not holding together.
You're here.
David, wrap it up for us.
Dick Lamm has a well-deserved reputation for saying what he thinks, regardless. Eric, who used to work in his administration, I probably made him cringe sometimes, but at least you knew where he stood. I think people like that about Bernie Sanders, too. Even like with Reagan, you may not agree with him and you think it's kind of extreme, but at least he means what he says and says what he means. It didn't have to have a focus group to decide how to spontaneously have an emotion and try to mimic human behavior. For Governor Hickenlooper, who endorsed Hillary early because, it's sort of the safe thing, and she seemed at the time the prohibitive favorite. I'm not sure it was completely calculated, but it's sort of a sensible edging away. And Sanders, Hickenlooper, Biden Hickenlooper, or my dream ticket, Webb Hickenlooper. I think he puts himself out there as a more independent guy, which is what the voters in general want. Somebody who actually has judgment rather than just following the party line.
And for clarification, just because we have some mixture of roles there, it's Jim Webb out of Virginia.
Jim Webb.
I get you.
Right. Wellington Webb could not run on the ticket with Hickenlooper because they're
Although
both from Colorado.
Wilma could be a first president.
Wilma,
female
yes.
president.
But not with Hickenlooper.
I'll tell you what, if it's Wilma versus Hillary, I'm putting a lot of money into donating and working for Wilma.
Well, you heard it here first, but regardless of which Webb hits the White House, we called it right here in Colorado Inside Out.